There is a certain kind of person you've probably met. Maybe you've been that person. They don't talk much about what they've been through. They don't need to. Hindin device savand of their so to inservals bound of alas, know of nor sate what they've been through. They don't need to. You can feel it in the steadiness of their gaze, in the way they don't panic when others do, in the quiet authority they carry without ever demanding it. These are people who have been broken, truly broken, by life, and somehow, on the other side of that breaking, they became something rare. Carl Jung, the great Swiss psychiatrist and founder of analytical psychology, believed that suffering was not an obstacle to a meaningful life. It was the path. He wrote, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain." Today we're going to explore the 5 remarkable strengths that emerge almost exclusively in people who have been shattered by life and rebuilt themselves from the inside out. This is not a video about toxic positivity. We're not going to tell you that everything happens for a reason or that your pain was a gift. Jung was far too honest for that. What he did believe, and what modern psychology increasingly confirms, is that certain depths of wisdom, empathy, and resilience simply cannot be taught in a classroom or read in a book. They can only be forged through the fire of genuine hardship. If you have lived through loss, betrayal, failure, or the slow collapse of everything you thought was true, this video is for you. Strength 1. The ability to sit with darkness without running. Most people are terrified of their own inner world. The moment discomfort rises, they reach for their phone, pour a drink, or find someone to argue with. Distraction is the great modern sedative. But people who have been broken by life have already been forced to sit in the darkest room of their psyche. They had no choice. The pain was too great to outrun. Jung called this process confronting the shadow, the hidden, rejected parts of ourselves. He believed that most human suffering comes not from life's difficulties, but from our desperate avoidance of them. The person who has been broken no longer has the luxury of avoidance. They've already stared into the abyss. And here is what's extraordinary. Once you've done that, once you've sat in total darkness and survived, you become fearless in a way most people will never understand. Not reckless, not numb, fearless, because you know that you can feel the worst thing imaginable and still be here, still be breathing, still be you. This inner tolerance for darkness becomes one of the most powerful psychological strengths a human being can possess. Strength 2, radical empathy, the kind that requires no explanation. Jung spoke of the wounded healer, the idea that those who have suffered deeply carry within them an almost supernatural capacity to understand the suffering of others. This is not sympathy. Sympathy is standing outside someone's pain and feeling sorry for them. Empathy is climbing into the pit with them and saying, without a word, "I know this place. You are not alone here." People broken by life develop this gift because their own pain dismantled every wall of ego and pretense. They stopped performing strength long ago. They know what it feels like to be invisible, to be misunderstood, to cry in a parked car before walking into work with a smile. And because they know, truly know none, they become the kind of presence that suffering people desperately seek. This is why the most effective therapists, counselors, teachers, and leaders are often people who carry deep personal wounds. Their brokenness didn't disqualify them, it equipped them. Strength 3, authenticity, the courage to stop pretending before the breaking. Most people are busy constructing a self. Jung called this the persona, the mask we wear for the world. The perfect employee, the unshakable parent, the person who has it all together. But life, when it breaks you, tears the mask away. And in that moment of raw, exposed vulnerability, something remarkable sometimes happens. The person realizes that the mask was exhausting, that performing a version of themselves for the world's approval had cost them everything, including their own sense of who they actually were. People who have been broken and rebuilt tend to develop a profound commitment to authenticity, not as a trend or a brand, but as a survival strategy. They've learned that inauthenticity is a slow poison, that living a life built on approval is a prison. And having already survived the worst, they find they no longer have the energy or the desire to be anyone but themselves. Jung believed individuation, the process of becoming your true, whole self, was the central task of human life. Broken people are often forced into individuation ahead of schedule. And the result is a kind of grounded, unshakable self-knowledge that most people spend a lifetime searching for. Strength 4, post-traumatic wisdom, seeing through the surface of things there, is a concept in psychology called post-traumatic growth, the well-documented phenomenon where people emerge from severe hardship with greater psychological strength, deeper relationships, and a richer sense of meaning than they had before. Jung anticipated this idea decades before the research. He believed that the psyche, when broken open, creates space for deeper layers of truth to rise to the surface. People who have been truly broken develop an almost eerie clarity about what matters. They stop wasting energy on petty grievances. They see through social performances. They are no longer impressed by status or wealth because they know from lived experience that none of it protects you when life decides to bring you to your knees. What emerges instead is a wisdom that is embodied, not intellectual. It doesn't come from books. It lives in the body, in the nervous system, in the quiet knowing of someone who has lost something irreplaceable and found a way to carry it with grace. Strength 5, unshakable resilience, the quiet certainty that you will survive the final and perhaps greatest strength is this certainty. Not the false certainty of someone who has never been tested, not arrogance or denial, but the deep, bone-level certainty of someone who has already survived the unsurvivable, who has already stood in the ruins of a life and started, slowly, painfully, stubbornly, to build again. Jung wrote that the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. People broken by life are often given no choice but to do exactly that, to accept the grief, the failure, the shame, the loss, and to keep going anyway. And every time they do, the resilience deepens. Not because they become hard, but because they become rooted, like a tree that survives a storm, not by being rigid, but by having roots that go deeper than the wind can reach. If you see yourself in any of these 5 strengths, I want to say something directly to you. What broke you was real. The pain was real, and you were not weak for being broken, you were human. But what you've built in the aftermath, that is extraordinary. Carl Jung believed that the goal of psychological life was not happiness, it was wholeness. And wholeness, he knew, could only come through integrating all of our experience, Jesus, the light and the shadow, the triumph and the ruin, the self we planned to be and the self we became. You are not damaged goods. You are someone who has been forged. And the world, though it may not say so loudly enough, needs exactly what you've become. If this resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And remember, the cracks are not the end of the story, they are where the light gets in.